I have been wanting to tell you this story for a while, and it's for whatever reason I decided to do it tonight because sometimes I do that. And what I've got in my hands here, I got it from my china cabinet, and you see some of my grandma's things. She loved the tea sets that she got from her brother who served in post-World War II Japan, the occupied Japan. A samovar my husband brought back from Russia. And then Babczi's, that's what we used. Hey, Deanna. Hey, Lori. Babczi's sugar bowl. Now, my mother's side was Polish, and Babczi was Polish. We called it our great-grandmother Babczi. And this was her sugar bowl. And what she did, like a lot of women in her time, is she would skim, actually they would call it saving, but really it was skimming. She would skim money, in her case, Roosevelt dimes, and she'd put them in her sugar bowl. And what she did with it to treat herself was when this sugar bowl was full of Roosevelt dimes, she went out and bought herself a mink coat. This is about in the late 40s or early 50s. She was so proud of her mink coat, and our family was from Detroit, and so a mink coat really meant a lot in a cold winter. And so that was how she and how a lot of women in her time would prepare for themselves. Hey, Emily, when they were wanting to get some money for themselves, because at that time, you didn't hear about a lot of female entrepreneurs, and you certainly didn't hear about a lot of women working outside the home, especially, of course, after World War II. So this was Babczi's sugar bowl, and my grandmother, my sister says this never happened, by the way, but my grandmother would tell me that a woman always would have to have her own money. She would say to me, Karen, a woman's got to have her own money. And that was part of what started me on the path to being an entrepreneur, because like a lot of women, I went to college, I got my degree, became a career woman, and then when we had kids, my husband and I wanted me to stay home. I just didn't like not having any money. I was terrified that what would happen to me and the kids if something bad happened to him, right? We know people that that's happened to. So as I've been going about my business and talking to women, I met one woman. She'd answered an ad of mine, and she inspired me. She's actually one of the reasons why I do what I do. And she was a stewardess. And by the time I spoke with her, she had been forced into retirement and was now living in a one-room converted garage because that's all she could afford on her $800 Social Security. That was it. You see, she had been a stewardess, was making good money. This is when there were all these airlines, and then there came this deregulation or something like that, and her airline went bankrupt. And she'd been depending on her pension. There was no pension. The airline was bankrupt. And the judge said, I'm sorry, ma'am. He said that to everybody and said, there's no pension. There's nothing to pay. And here she was depending on this salary, and being a stewardess was so cool. She had no money. And by the time she answered my ad and I spoke with her, she was in such financial extremes. There was really nothing she could do about it. When she found out who I was working with, who I was partnering with, she said, oh, I know that company. And I said, oh, how do you know? She goes, oh, the pilot I flew with would always tell me about it. And he would always ask me to get started. He had the cars and the trips. And I said, why didn't you? And listen to what she said. Then I didn't need it. And I just thought, holy cow. And here she was now literally trying to live on peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, could barely afford to heat the converted garage she lived in. $800 a month was all she had now to live on. And when she had the opportunity to do something, she didn't think she needed it. And isn't that what we all do as women? A lot of times we think it's all going to work out. Some people still believe that Prince Charming is coming. Hint, spoiler alert, he ain't showing up. And we don't take care of ourselves when we could. The Bible says, make the most of the opportunity, for the days are evil. And a lot of times we should act on our own behalf before we need to. And I think a lot of us, like when I was a stay-at-home mom, when my kids were younger and I was an entrepreneur, I would hear from people that I shouldn't be doing that. I should be 100% focused on my kids. Like I wasn't focused on my kids. I was homeschooling. I mean, I'm focused on my kids, okay? And I'm kind of a mama bear, like I know a lot of you all are. And I heard about another story about another woman. And this woman was in her mid-60s, and she decided to do something about her situation. And she got started in our company. This is back, years ago, just phone. I don't know how she did it, door-to-door people. In their living rooms. I don't know how she did it. But check this out. By the time she was 101 years old, that's when she earned her last incentive trip, by the way, at 101 years old. And when she passed away at 103, she was earning in her part-time business. Now you can imagine how much she was working at 103, right? $365,000 a year. Now, do you think she was worried about what Medicare was going to do? Do you think she was worried about Social Security? Do you think she was worried about outliving her money or who was going to care for her? She was earning in a part-time little business, I'm sure that's what they called it in her family, $365,000 a year at the age of 103. And then she was able to pass that on to her kids. Those women, Babczi with her sugar bowl, better not break it, right? Babczi with her sugar bowl. And I've got a lot of my grandma's treasures, by the way. This woman who was a stewardess who relied on a pension that vaporized and she never financially recovered. And then this other woman who took charge of her financial situation in a time when women really didn't do that. 3 completely different outcomes. Hey, Lucy, so I wanted to encourage you to take charge of your financial future, even if you're in a really good situation, even if you and your husband have partnered together and you've really gone to make sure of yourself. Maybe, Lord willing, you will never need any kind of extra income stream. But so many of us end up in places we didn't expect. We're left holding the bag. We look inside and there's nothing in it. That doesn't have to be. There is a way for you to create income streams that don't pit you against your family, a way that allow you to work where your soul passions are, allow you to contribute, not just financially. I know a lot of women that want to contribute financially, and sometimes because of the kids or lifestyles, the only thing they can think of is maybe going to get a job in a fast food place during the day while the kids are in school. But what if you had that income stream coming in and you didn't have to worry about your old age? What if you didn't need it? Then you could take the family on a cruise or take them for some kind of retreat somewhere. What if there were organizations there's a place in my area that supports victims of human trafficking. I'd love to be able to give her more money. All right. That's a huge need in our society, is the whole human trafficking issue, which is a whole nother sidebar. And if you ever do need it, you can be taken care of. Did you know that most women who end up in poverty in their older years were middle class or upper middle class in the prime of their life? They never intended to end up in poverty. Their husbands never intended for them to end up there. But that's where they went because they bought a lot of the stuff we tend to believe about money. So I want to encourage you to take care of yourself. Please be proactive. Don't wait until that one poor woman I spoke with until it was too late. And then she really couldn't do anything because she was just literally on survival mode. So I want to encourage you, however you have to do it, whether it's through multiple investments. Don't rely on one thing, please. I'm not a money expert, but we all know what the stock market does. You don't control it. Whatever you need to do for yourself, take care of yourself. Do a little bit more than Babczi did. You can do a little bit more than dimes in your sugar bowl, but even that was being proactive, right? So God bless you. Please take care of yourself. You're important. God bless. Good night.